Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat. I'm Megan Roberts. Friends and family who lost a loved one in the Fort Smith plane crash are starting to arrive in the community. The crash killed 6 people on Tuesday. As people head home to deal with the grief, the community is offering full support. Carla Ulrich has that story.
This is a sound people are hearing every morning. St. John's Anglican Church ringing the bells for 6 minutes, a reflection of the 6 lives lost. The church is opening its doors at 8 a.m. for anyone. That includes families of the crash victims who are arriving in Fort Smith. When they get here, they're met with a wave of support and kindness. Residents are opening up their homes, offering accommodations, and people around town are preparing home-cooked meals. Comfort as the community prepares for memorials and funerals. The family of Howie Benwell has announced that there will not be a funeral service at this time, but they will keep the community posted when a date is announced. Residents say that they will forever be affected by the events that unfolded Tuesday morning, and the heaviness of the grief continues to be felt. People are still waiting for answers to help understand what went wrong with the flight, but for now, they continue to pull together and take care of one another. Carla Ulrich, CBC News, Fort Smith.
The CEO of Rio Tinto is in the Northwest Territories tonight. Jakob Stausholm is at the Diavik Diamond Mine meeting with people affected by the deadly crash. The plane that went down on Tuesday was taking workers to the mine. Stausholm says it's important to sit and listen to what staff has to say about the tragedy.
As a company, we are absolutely devastated by the news that we have lost dear friends and colleagues. We are offering our full support to our people and the community who are grieving today. It was important for me to come to the Northwest Territories right away and spend some time with our employees at the Diavik mine to listen to what they have to say, to share their pain in this incredible, difficult time, and to reiterate that we are deeply committed to Diavik.
Stausholm says Rio Tinto will be working closely with authorities over the coming days, weeks, and months. He says it's crucial that all workers feel safe going to the mine. Now, when the crash happened, the community's health center went under a code orange, which indicates a mass casualty event. Mallory Minerson was working at the health center that day. She describes what it was like and explains how everyone grieves differently.
When the plane crash happened, I was actually coming in and working a couple of hours that morning, and so I actually did respond to the ED, and we were all down there in the code orange for the whole morning and until the afternoon, waiting and just being ready to respond in whatever way we were called to. It was really hard. Fort Smith is my home in the north, and so it was really hard to wait and for no one to come in the end. So everybody was very well prepared, very ready to go. Everybody was very proud of our team, of the whole health center coming together and supporting one another through that time as well, because it's hard to wait with no information as well, and I know the community was feeling that too. I wanted just to make sure that our community, we just normalize the feelings, different feelings and sensations that everybody's maybe experiencing, and that everybody does grieve in different ways. We all experience tragedy, loss, trauma in different ways in our bodies based on maybe what's happened to us in the past or what coping strategies we use, or different ways that we might conceptualize the situation, or if we're closer or farther apart, or maybe if it reminds us of something that's happened in the past. And just to be gentle with ourselves and to really take our time and to know that whatever we are feeling is normal, and there's no right way to grieve. So however it comes up for everyone is the right way for them, and to just that there's support for whatever you're going through. Right now we have 3 additional counselors in to support, and we have a plan for the next few weeks as well to bring in additional counseling teams, and we will rotate out so that lots of people have breaks and that everybody can take time to grieve, especially for the local team as well. Everyone in our community is impacted by this, so even the counselors and the health center team are impacted, and so it's important that we get breaks and the team here gets breaks to take care of themselves too.
If you want to use some of the resources that Mallory just talked about, there are several available to you. If you're from Fort Smith, the Northwest Territories Health and Social Services Authority says you should call the Community Counseling Program first. Then after hours, you can reach out to the Fort Smith Emergency Department to talk to an on-call counselor. You can also call the NWT helpline at 811, or you can go to the NTHSSA website for a full list of resources, and you can look there as well if you're anywhere in the Northwest Territories wanting to talk to somebody. All of those numbers and the website are on your screen right now. Three recent deaths in the Yukon are suspected to be related to toxic illicit drugs. That is according to the Territory's Coroner's Service. Virginie Ann has the details.
Well, Chief Coroner Heather Jones sends a strong message. Toxic illicit drugs continue to kill in the Yukon so far this year. Since mid-January, 3 more deaths, possibly related to drug use, have been under investigation. As well, more than 40% reported deaths are suspected to be linked to drug use. Jones says all could have been prevented. Let's not forget that last year there was a total of 23 substance use-related deaths. All happen in Whitehorse. Virginie Ann, CBC News, Whitehorse.
7 British Columbians died every day from toxic drugs in 2023. That's double the average for the last decade. It's the latest data from BC's coroner, and as David Ball reports, it's the highest death rate in 10 years.
More than 2,500 families in BC are grieving.
Your child, brother, sister, mom, dad, friend, or colleague did not deserve to die this way. Their death was preventable. Their loss, your loss, is our collective loss.
At her final press conference as BC's chief coroner, Lapointe revealed there was a 5% increase in toxic drug deaths in 2023.
Unless we are willing to act thoughtfully, carefully, and with courage to provide a safer supply, more people will suffer and more families will grieve.
The latest report comes 1 year after BC decriminalized small amounts of illegal drugs. Lapointe supported it, but not everyone was on board.
The reckless decriminalization of hard drugs like heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine simply isn't working.
The opposition positioning itself as the solution.
BC United government is going to fix this, and we're going to fix it by saying we're going to invest in treatment and mental health facilities 24/7 where we can take people off the streets.
Drug user advocates say that kind of political rhetoric is dangerous.
It's not just the drugs, but the politics are toxic too. We're just attacking harm reduction, trying to make a moral panic and scapegoat drug users so that they can get into office. You know, they're trying to say safe supply is actually causing the problem instead of the solution to the problem. We know it's the solution to the problem.
The highest death rate in Lapointe's report has been in northern BC, particularly around the city of Terrace, showing that this crisis spares no part of the province. David Ball, CBC News, Vancouver.
Alberta is also poised to set a record for the number of people who died from drug poisoning in a single year. It comes as a pilot project for Western Canada's only mobilized drug checking service is coming to an end in Calgary. Terry Trembrath reports.
Doing a drug analysis with a sample of caffeine on an FTIR machine, which uses an infrared spectroscope. A test like this is done about 10 times a day, 3 days a week through the Drug Check-In YYC mobile service. Anita Tibbin-Wood is the Calgary drug checking manager with AWARE, the Alberta Alliance who educates and advocates responsibly.
If it's an overdose, if you know what you're doing, but often people don't know what they're doing, so it's actually a poisoning. And right now in Alberta, 5 people die every single day due to opioid-related poisonings.
Shelby Swazo is the provincial drug checking manager and says the true conditions of being on the front lines of the opioid crisis is multifaceted.
You can get into the community aspect, you can get into the personal aspect, you can get into the professional aspect, you know, the resource management aspect as well too. That's a loaded question because but if I need to sum it up into one word, it's been really, really hard.
Aware is hoping to continue the mobile program after the pilot ends in March and are planning to launch the same service in Edmonton this summer. Terry Trembath, CBC News, Calgary.
This is the CFBC's largest attachment, home to elite units, federal and municipal scope. Congratulations on making the cut.
Have you spoken with your father?
We're coming for you and everyone like you.
I would rather be broke than blue.
Lots of reasons to not be a cop.
A Surrey girl should know all of them.
Maybe you should reconsider the uniform and everything that it represents.
I'd rather fight from inside it to make a change.
Why, hello. It's me, Seth Rogen. 10 potters will be facing off in the most extraordinary ceramics competition show that this country has ever seen.
I'm Jen Robertson, and I'll be your host.
So are these potters ready?
This exploded.
To test their skills at the wheel and push themselves every week?
Oh, no. So the ones that do stand out, they really do stand out.
And who will be named champion?
I'm excited to see it. Oh, wow!
Of the Great Canadian Pottery Throwdown.
It appears we have a mystery to solve.
You will be next.
He's dead.
A murderer was murdered.
Toronto Constabulary, stop!
Here we go.
Make it mini!
I'm gonna push it. Let's go.
My hands are shaking.
This is all very overwhelming.
Don't expect anything normal.
I can't believe it. I'm here.
The country's housing advocate continues to follow up on her report on the condition of housing in Nunatsiavut. Marie-Josée Houle and Nunatsiavut President Johannes Lamp met with the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador yesterday. They say the meeting was positive. Ariana Kelland tells us what happened.
It's been more than a year since Marie-Josée Houle saw how Labrador Inuit are living. What she saw shocked her, appalled her, and this report and its recommendations are the result of that. Now, to turn those recommendations into action.
It's not just a report done, check mark. This is a tool. This is a tool that has recommendations on how to move forward and how to ensure that the right to housing is realized for the people in Nunatsiavut.
Houle and Nunatsiavut President Johannes Lamp met with the Premier and Housing Minister yesterday. Meetings with the feds have already happened.
We certainly heard that there's openness and that they want to be moving forward.
One of the key recommendations, to hand over control of housing to the Nunatsiavut government and to create an advocate who can see the report and plan through for generations to come. Things the Premier, she says, seemed keen to do.
It is a 50-year plan that we need because otherwise we're going to find ourselves in the same situation in 4 years, in 5 years, in 50 years if something's not done kind of long term.
But Johannes Lamp is used to the government breaking promises it made to the Inuit.
We have to hold the federal and provincial governments accountable, where Labrador Inuit have been dismissed and ignored for far too long.
Another hope is for a biannual housing meeting with the province and feds in Nunatsiavut. Lamp says it's one thing to see these photos, quite another to breathe the mold-laden air, see the overcrowded houses, and feel the cold drafts in poorly constructed houses.
Housing conditions like that is causing health problems, and so that has to be seen. Not just by federal and provincial ministers.
When you set foot in these houses, and some of them you can't even get to the front door without thinking about safety because even the front porch is so creaky, and think that this is a reality for everyone every single minute of their day. It's very sobering.
Houle stressed her role is to advocate, not just write reports governments can ignore and shelve. After years of feeling forgotten, Lamp is grateful for that.
This is not the first time. That we have been requesting meetings with the province to discuss housing crisis in Nunatsiavut, and so the numbers are too high to remember, and trying to get a meeting like this to discuss the issues that, with the help of a housing advocate, this is a major step forward.
Ariana Kelland, CBC News, St. John's.
A cross-border Yukon River salmon rebuilding strategy may soon be in the works. The Yukon River panel meets twice a year to discuss Chinook and fall chum salmon. The decline of both species has overshadowed recent meetings, including one in Whitehorse this week. But Canadian panel member Dennis Zimmerman says the group needs to shift focus. He wants them to turn towards rebuilding and determine how to do it right. That was supported by other panel members, though many acknowledged it won't be easy.
All people that affect the Yukon River in some way, shape, or form have to be willing to give up something in order to let king salmon return. That's something we're going to have to explain to all our tribes up and down. Our First Nation people is everybody's got to chip in.
Rebuilding efforts are underway in both Alaska and the Yukon, but they don't necessarily have the same goals, and people don't always know what's happening on the other side of the border. The panel hopes to start bridging that gap at its meeting in April. There will be dedicated time for representatives to discuss rebuilding priorities and decide how to take a cohesive approach. New research on emissions from Alberta's oil sands has found something alarming. Scientists are pointing to a major pollution problem that could pose a risk to human health. The data suggests tiny particles are being released at a much higher rate than reported. Anand Ram explains.
How oil sands operators report air pollutants uses estimates from the ground. But when scientists actually tested the air from above, the results were far worse.
Those emissions were substantially higher than what industry is reporting to inventories.
Pollutants 20 to 64 times higher, according to their research published in the journal Science.
They were also roughly equal to all of the organic carbon emissions summed up across the entire country.
What they found were a lot of volatile hydrocarbons, the kind you might see warnings about on paint thinners or nail polish remover. Highly reactive, they change as they mix with air and sunlight.
Ultimately, what that means is, though, that it forms tiny particles in the air, which the hydrocarbons are a health risk themselves, but the tiny particles are something we track a lot as being a health concern.
Tiny particles like those found in the wildfire smoke that blanketed cities last year. So small, they can travel far and deep into lung tissue.
And we know they cause everything from cardiovascular events, so heart attacks, strokes, arrhythmias, as well as having an impact on mortality.
This research does not draw a connection from the emissions found to diseases in communities, but experts say finding such high amounts in any part of the country is important to understanding health impacts.
They are also present in our cities in unknown amounts. And the measurement technique they got and they've used in the oil sands now is something that can be used, in Toronto.
We put the stark findings to both industry and the federal government. The group that represents the major oil sands companies says the difference in measurement is worth reviewing. Meanwhile, the Environment Ministry says it could lead to improvements on how emissions are tracked. Anand Ram, CBC News, Toronto.
Marketplace's latest investigation has found EV drivers could be paying twice as much for the same charge depending on where they fuel up. Now, for the first time, this country's environment minister is hinting at some standardization to help consumers better compare costs. Charles Diagro has that story.
Plugging in.
Did you hear it click?
To fuel up. It's a common practice for a growing number of Canadians, but at what cost?
$3.75 a minute.
Pricing is all over the map when it comes to Canada's public charging infrastructure. Some bill by the minute, others the hour. And the energy output of each machine can differ too.
With gasoline, we have very transparent pricing because it's a large number that you can see as you're driving by. And so ideally, you would have something like that.
Marketplace found consumers can be paying twice as much for the same charge after a kilowatt-hour comparison at fast chargers revealed prices ranging from 25 cents to 50 cents per kilowatt-hour.
But the fact that different systems are being used across the country does make it more difficult for consumers to be able to compare. I think it is possible. We will end up agreeing that we should all use the same system across the country.
Kilowatt-hour pricing is the charging equivalent of by the liter for gas-powered cars. But less than 25% of Canada's public chargers currently bill that way. After bringing that to the attention of the Environment Minister, it may change.
Can we impose this on provinces and territories? I don't think so, but we can work with them to try and ensure that we have the most efficient system in terms of tarification across the country.
When we asked the providers about the range in prices we found, ChargePoint told us independent owners set their prices. Flow says it's often the same for their stations too. Petro-Canada says they provide competitive pricing. Ivy adds they're one of the first to adopt kilowatt-hour pricing. Most EV owners are still charging up at home, where prices are often less. But demand for public charging is expected to rise as more EVs hit the road. Charles Agro, CBC News, Toronto.
Nunavik travelers have a new option in their flight schedule to Pavernatuk. Air Inuit will be offering direct flights on a Dash 8 aircraft instead of Twin Otters or King Airs. The airline says the plan has taken over a year to complete. Flights will now go 3 times a week with more seats available.
People from all the communities have requested to get more seats for the flight, and we did what we could.
Teara says Air Inuit charter flights will not be affected by the change. To the excitement of many locals and tourists, construction of the Yellowknife Detta Ice Road has finally started this week. Crews can be seen driving, shoveling, and leveling the road, and it's set to open soon, despite the warm temperatures forecast next week.
We're making a good pace right now. The warm temperatures won't impact. We're not anticipating it's going to impact the building of the road. That's hard to give an anticipated date because it's dependent on like how well the plowing's going and even what kind of conditions we get. But started on Wednesday. That was day 1 at 3 p.m. 5 to 7 days. So it's possible it could be open early next week or even possibly this weekend. But again, dependent on conditions.
This is the latest opening of the ice road on record, according to the GNWT. The previous record was January 11th. Crews are advising people to stay off the road until it is officially opened. And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. We leave you with a look at the weather. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good weekend.
What do I like? I like open fires, moonlit nights, chatty letters, rainy days. I like daydreaming. I love this colorful little island of ruby, emerald, and sapphire. Yet often my dark moods come. I'm possessed body and soul by this depression. They say women shouldn't write. Some days I almost give up. But I cannot contain my imagination. I made Anne real. I gave her my love of nature, my love of books, and my childhood dreams. My greatest happiness would be to climb the alpine path and write upon it a woman's humble name.
Lucy Maud Montgomery battled depression, rejection, and sexism to become known around the world for Anne of Green Gables and 19 other novels.
Closing this case gets you one step closer to you getting back on the squad and keeping you out of prison.
You're not a detective, you're a con artist. You have a driver's license, right?
Of course, I have 9. If you couldn't be a cop, what would you be?
Nothing. My dad raised me to be a cop. That's who I am. Stay here.
You're adorable.
You guys are making this entire station look like a circus.
He's busy trying to solve a murder. What are you doing?
Thanks for having my back.
Look at you.
Is this your girlfriend? This is not my girlfriend.
She's way too cool to be your girlfriend.
She's not way too cool to be my girlfriend.
Knock, knock!
Who's that?
He's fired!
I'm starting to think you don't know what a joke is.
You're gonna eat nothing but raw spleen.
Getting into peak physical shape is 50% training, 50% diet.
Never occurred to me to bring lawn chairs out here.
Never occurred to the Egyptians to build the pyramids until it did.
Oh! Simpler times.
Let's set you up with a lunch date.
You're deaf? I don't know sign.
This feels a little round.
If accessibility is wrong, we don't want to be right.
Spicy.
Oh, do tell.
Breaking news. The critics are talking.
Oh, this is it.
Imagine the Wonder Years if it were written by Gene Shepard.
They twisted it all up.
Well, you can't trust a newsman.
Highly recommended.
Onwards.
Onwards.
Heartwarming.
This doesn't mean I'm better than anyone here tonight. It just says it.
100% fresh.
Well, I suppose we don't need to get rid of the cable right this second.
Son of a critch.
You look like a cod gasping for air.
Name something you see people do on TV that you secretly could do better. Host. I knew that was funny.
Family Feud Canada. Watch free on CBC Gen.
We want you to know that you can ask us anything. Need help with your Riz?
You just made Riz uncool. There is something that's been bothering me. Are mutual funds or ETFs better for my long-term goals?
Load weapon!
Welcome to the show!
Fire! Big, 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 big! I'm from the Liberal Party, and I...
We fought our way through Italy and then headed for Amsterdam, sweeping for Germans along the way. Our worst fear was to catch a bullet in these last hours of the war.
I was 15 when the Nazis invaded the Netherlands. More than 100,000 Dutch Jews never came home. Our men were put into forced labor. By 1945, we were starving. The food drops gave us hope. And then the Canadians came.
Before Amsterdam, I couldn't have explained why we were there, all those years away from home. But the Dutch showed us why it mattered.
Papa wanted me to bring some soldiers home to thank them personally. And that's when I first saw Wilf. And I invited him over that afternoon.
Marguerite Blaise married Lieutenant Wilf Gildersleeve. They moved to Vancouver, where they raised 8 children. Today, the Dutch still remember the Canadians who liberated them.
Wait. It's a ceremony?
Sispaquet.
Sispaquet?
Sispaquet.
And Your Majesty may be pleased to know that this year, thanks to the help of our Indian friends, we have produced some 30,000 pounds of this sweet gift.